say we do all these things and we still start having some sort of pain, some sort of nagging, something, hamstring, piriformis, glutes, calf, whatever's going on. What would what is the what should we do? What is suggested? Should we YouTube it? Should we try to like immediately go to a physical therapist? Like from both your running experience and your physical therapist experience, like what should be our first steps?
Yeah, it's a great question. Early, so for strengthening stuff will help prevent a lot of this, but when we do get these issues, they do tend to pop up. I mean, it still happens. Um, I would recommend number one, trying to see a therapist sooner rather than later. Um, Everything kind of compounds upon itself. So the sooner you get in, the better. Might be a simple, quick. But while you're trying to do that, and sometimes it does take a week or two to get into PT, and we don't want to lose too much time for our training when we have such a specific guideline that we're following, template that we're following. So I would definitely recommend trying to see a PT as early as you can. But I would also recommend trying to address the issue if it is, especially if you feel like it's a soft tissue issue. So something you're kind of poking around, you feel a lot of tenderness and tightness. I would definitely recommend starting to grab your foam roller. And if you don't have one, get them on Amazon. They're super cheap. Somewhere, I think the 18-inch one is still going for about $20. So not too expensive in the slut at all. So a couple of my favorites, depending on the body part, right? But would be foam rolling the hamstrings. You go all the way from your knees down towards the glutes. Okay, spending a couple minutes on that, and then as you're doing that, I recommend trying to do a couple minutes where the toes are up when you're rolling, a couple minutes where the toes are out to the side, and a couple minutes where the toes are pointed in. They'll get a different part of the hamstring. Okay. Same thing for the quads. Okay. So you're going from your knee towards your hip. And again, you're kind of pointing the toes together for about a minute, pointing the toes down for about a minute, point the toes out to the side for about a minute. Now, if you're getting one of those hip flexor pulls, you can just kind of focus on one side and really sink into that and let that sit there and roll back and forth on it. If it's more of your piriformis or your glute, you can kind of alternate, spending some time on just one side of the outside of the hip. You could pop one leg up and get a little bit more of a piriformis stretch as you're foam rolling. You can also do it for the calves. Again, you're kind of rotating the toes out for a little bit, toes straight up, toes straight in for a little bit, kind of getting each major part. So foam rolling, especially after the run, I'm a big fan of foam rolling. I'm a big fan of stretching. So on the regular stuff, I'm a big fan of getting at least like 30 seconds or so in for each major muscle group. So those would be your hip flexors. So you're standing in, perhaps a bit of a lunging position. You lunge forward, lean back to try and stretch out the front of the hip flexor. Holding that for 30 seconds. Holding the front of the quad there. Stretching the front of the quad there for 30 seconds. And there's many types of stretching the hamstring. One is just the standing, one where you're pulling back here, or you can pop it up on a step. That's my go-to for the back of the hamstring there. You could always be doing a sitting version where you sit and lean forward. And then the calf stretch, you could be up against the wall and just pushing forward, one leg back. Okay. All those are for 30 seconds. I'm a big fan of doing those one round for each leg after the run. I know it takes a couple minutes, but in my experience, has been super helpful for preventing injuries. And then if one really starts to bother you, you devote more time to it as far as the stretches you go. Maybe you work your way up to 5 rounds of 30 seconds if one really starts to bother you, feel super tight. But the more you strengthen, it actually will prevent that tightness. So kind of a funny thing with if the muscle is not strong enough, it will spasm and seize up to try to bring in control that it's not able to do normally. So kind of almost counterintuitive. If it feels tight, stretching usually helps. but it keeps coming back and keeps coming back, you really need to spend some more time strengthening that area because it'll support you better as you're running. And then the muscle won't feel the need to spasm, to tighten, to bring in that level of control.
Thank you. Also, Ned did an incredible job of videoing foam roller with our low budget production here. But if you need a more accurate, there's lots of YouTube videos that show foam rolling everything. If you want to see a slight higher budget version of this foam rolling experience. But yeah, thank you. From my experience of just on the runner end of things, I think if you guys do these exercises and stretches that Ned has shown, you will be doing amazing. This is an incredible such a great set of stretches and exercises.